fellow Toastmasters. I know how to save a life. I think that's a wonderful thing to know. A few years ago, about 10 years ago, my grandfather, on his 80th birthday, went out to a restaurant with his wife, my grandmother. They were eating their dinner. Everything was going well, when all of a sudden, he had a massive heart attack and fell over and died. Heart attacks and heart disease are the most common cause of death in this country. 35% of all deaths in America are caused by some type of cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular disease includes such things as high blood pressure, arteriosclerosis, coronary disease, where your coronary arteries get blocked and cause your heart to stop functioning properly, or angina, where there's just a general pain in your chest. The estimates for 2006 say that more than 80 million people in the U.S. have some type of cardiovascular disease. I've been a CPR instructor for about almost 3 years now. When I first learned CPR, I was about 12. I would highly recommend everybody to learn CPR from one instructor or another. There are several different facilities that teach CPR. You have the Red Cross, the American Heart Association. There's even some places online where you can go and get your online certification, but I'm not too sure about those. Early CPR and access to defibrillation, the electric shock that can restart the heart, are essential to surviving a heart attack. In Seattle, where people trained in CPR are pretty common, the survival rate for somebody who is witnessed having a heart attack on the street, they fall down, somebody comes along and helps them within 3 to 5 minutes, the EMS service is fast, their survival rate is around 35%, which is really good. In New York City, where people who know CPR are not as common, the EMS response is not quite so fast. The survival rate drops to about 7%. In Chicago O'Hare Airport and some of the casinos in Las Vegas and other cities where they have large gathering areas and people who are trained to use an AED, an automated external defibrillator device, those devices that you see on the wall, you grab them and they tell you what to do. In those places, their survival rate is up to 50 to 74% for somebody who has a heart attack and they collapse as witnessed. Heart disease is one of those things that is really easy to prevent. We can all do something about it for ourselves. Some of the causes of heart disease are obesity, which of course that's my problem, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, lack of physical activity. These are all things that we can do for ourselves to help avoid having a heart attack or some type of a cardiovascular issue. Now, how many of you would know what to do if you were in a restaurant and you saw somebody collapse all of a sudden? Not very many. Just in general, the population is not very well educated in how to react. There are so many things that we think of that come to mind when we see somebody collapse. The first thing is, what do I do? Who's that person? I don't know that person. What if they sue me? There are so many different things that pop to our minds. Now, about the lawsuit issue, let me just say that all 50 states do have a Good Samaritan law. And the Good Samaritan law in Hawaii says that if you provide care to the best of your knowledge and training without wanting remuneration, or you don't expect to be paid for it, and you don't wantonly neglect your duty as what you're trained to do, then you cannot be sued. So if you see somebody collapse and you say, oh, they need CPR, then you do that, that doesn't count. That's wantonly negligent. But if you go and you see somebody collapse and you go through what you've learned how to do in your CPR class, you can't be sued. You're safe. Another thing that pops to mind when we think of how to save somebody is, what about disease? What if I catch something? If you use the proper precautions as you would learn in a CPR class, it's really difficult to catch any disease. HIV, any type of hepatitis, any type of bloodborne disease, or even the flu. It's hard to catch it if you use the proper precautions. Early CPR and early defibrillation are essential to somebody surviving a heart attack. I would love to encourage everybody at some point in your life, if you have not already, take a CPR class. Just learn how to do it. The knowledge is the first step. Once you know and have that knowledge, if you witness a collapse of somebody, you might be able to save their life. And what a wonderful feeling that would be.